sandwich in here.
Will you?
Is it?
The Quiznos?
Quiznos, yeah.
Yeah.
My favourite sandwich. See, you could have had one.
When's the quiz? Yes. Preston, I haven't got any earmuffs, mate. And where they are? Not here.
The way we've started this album that differs a lot from other albums is that we've decided that every track has to be laid down as a band. And before, with Jeff and I producing and writing everything ourselves, we just bring musicians in like we've become, in a way, like a rock Steely Dan. And we wanted to change that. We did change that a little bit on Aria, which I think is one of our most underestimated records. So now with this technology, what we've decided to do is to spend the last 7 months in this room here, as you see, writing all the songs, sequencing them, programming them to sound like a band, and then taking them into a main studio and using that as a notepad or a template. The idea of this is, rather than the record being an electronic record recorded in a studio like this, is that this is just the notepad for the whole band. Try it the way we've got it on the guy thing with the fours on the floor.
Just bass drum?
Yeah, and then try it with fours on the floor and snare.
Okay. Yeah, I did try those at home.
Get a feel. And whether
This one was a straight fade actually, but
was it?
Try it.
And then we try straight feel.
Well, a lot of it starts actually in a little room like this. We've both got Mac computers and keyboard workstations, and we use that really to assemble the arrangement side of it. If you get an idea, maybe it's only a couple of bars or something like that, but if you put it on computer, then you can start chopping it about. And so we get it to a certain level at that point where we've maybe got a verse and a chorus, say for instance in the song, and then we start to take it a stage further by bringing Chris in to do the backing track, and then that takes on a whole new. I mean, today we've been working on a track, and it's changed its format quite considerably in the space of a few hours. So that's pretty much the process that we go through.
A letter came through the door. I can't remember when, maybe 5 years ago. And the guys have been trying to get hold of me, Jeff and John have been trying to get hold of me. And the then manager wrote a letter to an address he probably got from the Musicians Union in London. And it finally got to me. And it said, Jeff and John of Asia would really like to get in touch with you. Will you contact me? And I did, and the rest is history.
seems like the snare's not too dead to you, is it?
I was just noticing it has a kind of a boom, boom.
Still. It's Same as last time.
Boxy-ish.
I mean, we can make it sound like with more
Say change the head.
So I bought that guitar for £199 in 1976.
Follow out the toolbox.
Yeah, I did it drunk.
Great. You did a good job though.
Yeah. The guy, I took it to Andy's guitar place in Denmark Street. The guy said, "I've never seen a scallop this deep." He said, "You must be thousandths of an inch off from the truss."
Yes. Oh, you were lucky. I mean, because they normally like us a little bit of.
Yeah.
You could do a whole irrigation system for, Bangladesh or something.
Yeah. Yeah, after 3 years since our last record, we decided that we needed a bit of a change, and a change of scenery we thought was quite a good thing. Already our management was based in California, so we decided to come out to California to start a new record. This move has changed a lot of thought in how we would record an album and how we want an album to sound. Before, our album was recorded exclusively at our Loco Studios on a mixture of an SSL mixing desk and a mixture of digital and a mixture of analog. Technology has changed so much that the only analog side we use now are the microphones, Jeff's analog synths and guitars. So technology has changed a lot on this record. In those 3 years, technology in sound and picture has changed drastically. And this record, we're using the high-tech part of it to record what would be a contemporary record that sounds contemporary today and also 20 years ago. So we're trying to mix something that sounds along the lines of the first Asia album or Foreigner 4 or one of the big Journey albums, but with today's technology. Because whether we use it as a chug that bit or not, try it a different way, two different ways. Because it's quite delicate, and coming in with the full beat, I'm not sure about. But unless you've got it doing full time, you don't notice the half time as much, do you?
I think I first hooked up with the Asia guys about 3.5 years ago now. It was towards the end of the recording sessions for the Aura album. I came in right at the end. I was recommended as a session guy who could fill out all the necessary parts in a short space of time, which is what we had to deal with. And it was all because of Mike Sturgis, who I believe has played with the band for a couple of albums worth, and indeed played on most of Aura, as it turned out. So he recommended me, and I played on about 8 of the tracks on Aura, and they didn't manage to get rid of me, so I'm still here. The interesting thing about this album is I think it's been designed from day one to have more of a band feel and to work better in a live context, and it feels more like a team effort. I loved the Aura album. It was a very lavish piece of work, and there's lots of interesting stuff in there. For someone who wants to listen to it repeatedly, you will keep discovering new things. But it's more of a production number rather than a band thing. There's a lot of guest players on there. There's an alarming amount of overdubs on there. This record looks like it's going to be a bit more of an honest, straight-ahead rock record. So I think there's a bit of contrast in there. Should be interesting.
It's funny if you try and work out the the root and the life of how a song is created and happens to how it is as we are today, putting down the bones, the backing tracks for 3 or 4 songs from the next album. If you take a song, or what I think is going to be our main song on the album, is called What About Love, is I sat in this chair here with an acoustic guitar, and within 5 minutes the whole idea of the song was there, the verse, the chorus, the hook lyrics, roughly the tempo of it, the key of the song, and then that goes through. That's a very short stage. Then you go through a very long stage, which is like trying to work out how many verses are going to be, how long that's going to take, and then you go on the next thing of going in the studio, and you might spend a day with the band running through to get the good take for the backing track. So I generally find that good songs come very, very quickly, and the main idea is over and done with in 10 minutes. If you actually sit down and try and write a song over 5 or 6 days, to me, and with my experience with Jeff, it has never happened that way.
Was it any good?
Working with everybody in the studio is makes everything far more spontaneous. Working the parts out, virtually working the drum parts out by the second, I think it makes for a fresher approach to the songs, and that freshness will come across, one hopes, to the listener.
Well, so we still got the same feeling of double time. Let's try a bridge and a chorus like that, shall we?
This seems to be a more rocky, up-tempo, classic rock feel. It's not that far removed. I mean, there are parts on it, as far as I know. Depends what goes on the CD, we don't know that yet. But it seems that there's going to be a mixture of heavy-ish rock and prog rock. So just looking forward to playing it. We haven't, we've only played maybe 4 or 5 or 6 tracks at the moment.
Yeah, with Aura, it was very much, we wanted to work with people that we'd never worked with before, and the list kind of grew and grew. It was very hard for us to actually to make that cohesive. I think that's why the album took such a long time, was because we wanted to make sure it sounded like an Asia album, but at the same time featured a lot of individual players. And I think that we feel that with this album, it's very much a concise way back to how the original band was, which was very much a 4-piece identity. And so I think it's quite refreshing for us to actually view this album almost like it was the first album.
It would be very easy to be intimidated by some of the shoes I'm filling. I mean, this band certainly has had some special guitar players in it in the past, but the other approach is life is too short to spend it being intimidated by people, so I'd rather look at it as an honour rather than something to be scared of, and I just do what I do the best I can. And
we decided on this album to produce it solely ourselves. We've done that in the past, but there's been definitely more involvement from outside sources, with people we've worked with like Pete Craigie, Simon Hanhart, and obviously with the late Mike Stone before I joined the band. The way that both Jeff and myself are working with technology is that it becomes very easy from an early stage to almost start the mixing process. So you're recording things how you want them to sound in the final stage. And we definitely got a very clear view of how we want this album to sound. So we almost don't want the interference of an outside producer to change us old dogs into something that we don't want to be.
I don't think the location of being in the States is that different to me being down in Wales with Jeff and John, as I have been for months and months on end sometimes. So now I'm in Burbank for months and months on end. But I do love being in the States. It's always been somewhere I've wanted to live. Probably for all my life. I've been coming here for all my career. I've seen all the changes through the States. I've travelled around so much, been everywhere, I suppose. Well, not everywhere, but a lot of places where a lot of Americans don't go. And living here actually does perhaps give a different perspective to your outlook. Although I've always been into American music, apart from the British stuff like Led Zeppelin, for instance, and Bad Company, for instance. So I think the location of the studio hasn't changed a lot of the outlook on it, but I'm certainly enjoying myself living here.
I think we felt that we'd done very much the jazz stroke, Latin, Santana type influence stuff. We did quite a bit of it on Arena, really, with the track Arena, and working with Elliot Randall, who obviously came from more the jazz rock background with Steely Dan. So that Aura was a continuation, really, of the Arena album. I think with this album, we felt that we wanted to maybe visit more of the progressive rock side of it, as opposed to the slightly mellow, jazzier elements. So we've gone very much this album, I think quite consciously, for something that's a bit more direct and a bit more kind of English sounding.
I feel very fortunate that the Asia fans seem to accept me on the whole and not give me too much of a hard time for not being some of my predecessors. Generally, I found them to be very enthusiastic and welcoming, and thanks, guys.
I think we'll probably move quicker into the next album. I think that you know, three or 4 years between albums is a long time, particularly in today's the speed that things moves today, the speed that technology moves, the speed of people's trends change so radically and so rapidly. I think we'll be looking at doing an album a year from now on if we can, you know, create songs that we feel are good enough to go on an album.
I think maybe that some of our last albums have been trying to be all things for all men, and there was, you know, great players on it. You know, it was great working with Vinnie Colaiuta, with Simon Phillips again, but I think there was maybe more of a muso element than a stronger song element. So on this album, we want to do straight down the line stadium rock album where the hooks are very, very important, and that a lot of it's coming from the soul and passion rather from technical ability. Have a good time all the time.